This week, Vulpicula resigned from Mod on Tuesday and permanently left the server. He wrote a letter citing a poor relationship with Frumple, said Frumple told him he disliked him, and said he was in tears after a voice chat conversation. He also accused Frumple of actively trying to push his friends away in private. Frumple responded with his own statement, saying Vulpe's views and inability to consider other viewpoints made him ineffective at enforcing the server's anti-racist and pro-LGBT policies, citing poor handling of Modgate, and explicitly denying the allegation he attempted to push away Vulpe's friends. Frumple also criticized the server community, saying that members did not hold themselves to the same standards they held him to, and announced he's going on an extended leave of absence. Skelly Zomperman published a statement yesterday disputing the charge that Vulpicula is incapable of understanding other viewpoints and criticizing Frumple for his comments towards the community. It's Sunday, July 18th, 2021, and this is an extended special report from MBS News. In Central City. The events of this week began on the day of the MRT's 9th anniversary. Just before 5 p.m. GMT on Tuesday, July 13th, Frumple brought Vulpicula into a private Discord voice chat channel, apparently due to a disagreement they had over Vulpe using the /kick command on members as a joke. About an hour later, Vulpicula left the MRT Discord and communicated his resignation from Mod to the staff. A day later, he released a letter explaining why he resigned and why he would not be returning to the server, citing a poor relationship with Frumple as the main reason. He said his conversation with Frumple triggered a, quote, full-on mental breakdown, unquote, and left him, quote, crying into a pillow for an hour, unquote. And his poor relationship with Frumple began long before this past Tuesday, according to Vulpicula's statement. Vulpe said that in July 2020, Frumple took issue with a sarcastic comment he made in the Politics Discord channel and, quote, described me as ignorant and unsympathetic to black issues, unquote. He also claimed Frumple later mentioned that, quote, he had a hard time separating me as a person from me politically, unquote. Following the Modgate incidents in October, of which Vulpicula spearheaded the investigation that started it and for which he said he was at least partially at fault for its negative consequences, Vulpe said his relationship with Frumple further soured, and said Frumple asked him to resign from Mod, which he did not. Later on, Vulpicula alleged Frumple, quote, was actively trying to push those I considered friends away from me, unquote. He relayed a brief statement elaborating that claim the day after he sent his letter, saying a friend relayed to him that Frumple had told him to distance themselves from Vulpicula. Frumple explicitly denied Vulpicula's allegation in his response letter, saying Vulpe's friend misinterpreted that interaction. We'll get to that in a bit. Vulpicula said Frumple made comments expressing his dislike for Vulpe in public, such as, quote, Vulpicula, you're being extra annoying today, and, quote, Vulpicula, I don't actually even like you, unquote. And the catalyst that set the building tension aflame happened this month, when Frumple took issue with Vulpicula using the /kick command on members as a joke. Vulpe said that he saw kicking as harmless, but Frumple disagreed and argued it could be interpreted as an abuse of power. On Tuesday the 13th, the two began a voice chat conversation following a disagreement in server chat over the kicking policy, and Vulpicula said in the conversation that Frumple told him, quote, my views were antithetical to the server he wished to run with its anti-racist pro-LGBT policies, unquote. He ended his letter with a statement that he does not hate Frumple, but that, quote, I don't feel comfortable on a server run by someone who expects me to behave in ways that violate my basic views on equality, by someone who attempts to isolate me and publicly states he doesn't like me, unquote. Vulpicula later confirmed that he is not returning to the server and transferred away all his assets. Shortly after Vulpicula's letter was released, Frumple said it would take him a couple days to respond, and on Friday night he did, in an extended response which explained his issues with Vulpicula, disputed portions of Vulpe's letter, and apologized for some of his actions, while also criticizing the community at large and announcing his indefinite leave of absence from the server. Frempel said that Vulpicula was prone to bias, which affected his decision-making. He cited the comment Vulpicula made, which Volpe said in his letter was intended mainly as sarcasm, but said he did not see the comment as obvious sarcasm. He questioned Volpe about it and asked if he knew any people who were black, to which, according to Frempel, he responded with a no. Frempel criticized him for not watching a set of videos he sent to challenge his perspective, leading Frempel to conclude Vulpicula, quote, wasn't interested in what I had to say, unquote. He said he was concerned with, quote, the fact that he wasn't open to even listening to other views at all, which is more of a personality trait and goes beyond politics, unquote. Later in his letter, Frempel said that on some occasions when borderline racist or sexist comments were made in the Discord Politics channel, Volpe would downplay the comments and not understand why they were offensive, and Frempel said he and other staff had to explain it to Volpe for certain comments. Frempel cited Vulpicula's handling of the Modgate investigation in 2020 as an example of Vulpicula's alleged bias affecting his performance as a staff member. Frempel said that at the time he told Vulpicula that his, quote, significant bias, unquote, and his lack of awareness of it had led Vulpicula to leave out some feedback in his reports to the admins after surveying MRT members for feedback on the staff team, which affected the decisions made by the admins during Modgate. Frempel confirmed, as Volpe wrote in his letter, that he asked Vulpicula to resign after Modgate. According to Frempel, he told Volpe, quote, I would much prefer that you leave the staff, either by you resigning or I demoting you. However, the latter I'm reluctant and unable to do because I also have to be aware of the opinions of others on the server, and there are certainly several members who think you've done no wrong or would like you to stay. I also know that several staff think the same way, or at least think that a departure would be unnecessary and unhelpful at this point. That said, my personal feelings on your conduct here still stand. If I were to demote you, the reasons would probably be along the lines of your competence, your ability to carry out your duties of the position, and your fit for the position, which does include, in part, the trust you have broken with members and staff, unquote. Frempel went on to deny Vulpicula's allegation that he attempted, in private, to actively push Volpe's friends away from him. Frempel said that early this year, he was investigating an anonymous complaint made against certain staff members when Vulpicula began attempting to assist in his investigation, including talking with the member who made the complaint. Frempel said that he asked Vulpicula not to involve himself with the investigation, and he, quote, advised the member to limit contact with Vulpicula for now while the investigation was in progress, unquote. According to Frempel, this very likely was the member who Volpe cited in his letter and said that it was a, quote, massive interpretation on the member's part, unquote. Frempel then detailed his account of the voice chat conversation on Tuesday. He reiterated in his letter his position on the use of the /kick command, and that excessive use of it he did not find acceptable. He said he was trying to explain his position to Vulpicula, but said it seemed he wasn't understanding his arguments. According to Frempel, he did tell Vulpicula that he disliked him. He cited an unrelated previous conversation in which a member suggested staff guidelines for responding to prejudicial and discriminatory behavior, and said he told Volpe that, quote, if we already had this anti-racism, pro-LGBT stance and were to implement guidelines or teaching of some sort, then I wasn't sure how that would fit with Vulpicula's political views, unquote. Frempel denied calling Vulpicula a racist, sexist, or homophobe, but said he took issue with Volpe's objection to an official policy recognizing that some groups are more marginalized than others and that staff will work in support of protecting them. Volpe said in his letter that he felt Frempel was demanding him to, quote, treat people differently based on skin color and sexuality, and to treat entire racial groups not as individuals but as collectives, unquote. Frempel denied this was his intention and said he only wanted to communicate that Volpe should be more aware of varying levels of discrimination across different groups. Volpe described in his letter how the conversation left him crying and in a panic attack, and Frempel said, quote, I totally regret what I had said and in the manner I said it, so again I would like to sincerely apologize for causing the panic attack and stressing out Vulpicula to that limit. It was not my intention at all to scare Vulpicula, but other than my own actions I ultimately can't control how Vulpicula reacts to what I say, unquote. Frempel also apologized for the public comments Volpe cited in his letter, in which Frempel expressed his dislike for Vulpicula. Frempel concluded his discussion of Vulpicula by saying that his ignorance of concerns and struggles surrounding racism, sexism, and homophobia, along with his resistance to considering other viewpoints, were intolerable for a member of the staff team. He said, quote, "I can imagine a few people in our community might be saying right now that we should be tolerating Vulpicula's views, or it's okay for him to be so closed off to other views. But to that I emphatically say no, at least in terms of being a staff member. To ensure that the server is truly welcoming to as many people as we can, the staff need to be on the same page as much as possible on what is acceptable and what is not." He added, quote, "It's clear to me that his views and my views are just not compatible in terms of the anti-racism, pro-LGBT policy that has already been agreed upon by staff. Because of that fundamental difference, for the sake of clarity, I do have to veto him from any future return to the staff team," unquote. And Frempel ended his letter by criticizing the server community. He said he was frustrated as he claimed members of the server expected him to apologize for every mistake and every misinterpretation he made, while not holding themselves to the same standard. He stated, quote, "Whenever I make a mistake or make a misinterpretation of a situation or what someone says, as server owner, I'm expected to apologize and make amends for that mistake, and I have done that and will do that. But what I've started to notice recently is that whenever someone misinterprets what I do or say, or misunderstands my intent, I rarely have ever received any apologies or acknowledgement when that happens," unquote. Frempel said he felt members of the server lacked empathy and appreciation for his work in running the server, and announced he is taking an extended, indefinite leave from the server, which he said will last at least 1 month, but likely a lot longer, during which time head administrator Chief Bazex will become effective acting owner of the server. Frempel also commented that, for the time being, he is still committed to renewing the server in 2022, but that, quote, "This whole ordeal and other factors have made me question again whether it's really worth it keeping this community going," unquote. Yesterday, moderator Skelly Zomperman added his own public comment on the situation, having been the mod that relayed communication from Vulpicula after he left the Discord, including his official resignation letter. Skelly defended Vulpicula in his statement. He said that while he frequently disagreed with Vulpicula's political viewpoints, he said he never felt Vulpicula expressed any racist, sexist, or homophobic views, and also disputed Frempel's claim that Vulpy did not understand or consider other viewpoints, saying that Vulpy reached out to him after debates in the Discord politics channel, quote, "to make sure that I understood that he didn't hate me and that he understood where I was coming from," unquote. And Skelly went on to criticize Frempel for his comments on the community. He said that while he was grateful for everything Frempel has done for the server, he saw Frempel's complaints about the community as a, quote, "diversionary tactic," unquote. He said, quote, "I want to point out that in real life it is common for people to get others to ignore their own issues by claiming that they do not receive enough care in return for what they do. This part of the letter reminded me exactly of that. I find it very inappropriate for this to be done in a response to something that drove one of my friends away from the community permanently and wounded him deeply, mentally and emotionally. Furthermore, it is also inappropriate that it was done in a letter given from a position of power to people who are, for the most part, significantly younger than him," unquote. He said members should not blame themselves for the recent events and added, quote, "What he has done for all of us is amazing, but just because he has done that does not mean that he is free from criticism, especially when his actions have caused real harm to real people," unquote. It was a week of events starting with Vulpicula's resignation and ending with Frempel announcing his indefinite leave from the server. MBS News will be covering all these events again, as well as any further developments if they happen, in a special edition of The Bulletin, scheduled for release on Saturday, July 31st. You can follow us at twitter.com/news_MBS for more news updates. From MBS News in Central City, I'm Kitty Catwoman231, and this has been a special extended MBS News Special Report.